Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Audit Net's Training Without Travel Webinars, IDEA Software Training via Practical Application, presented jointly by Audit Net and Richard Cascarino and Associates. Today's webinar is Reporting Using IDEA. I'm Jim Kaplan, founder and owner of Audit Net, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. Today's presenter and subject matter expert is Richard Cascarino, principal of Richard Cascarino and Associates. Let me have Richard introduce himself and give you a brief background of his experience, and then I'll cover the housekeeping items, disclaimer, and important information about the Audit Net IDEA partnership. Richard?
Thanks, Jim. Welcome. For those of you who have been on the series from the start, welcome back. For those of you who are just joining us for this one webinar, welcome. My name is Richard Cascarino, and I'm the principal of Richard Cascarino and Associates, based out of Steamboat Springs in Colorado, and also out of Johannesburg in South Africa. I'm speaking to you at the moment from Johannesburg, and I'll be returning back to Steamboat on St. Patrick's Day. Okay. My background: I have a depressing number of years' experience in IT audit training, and IT consultancy. I'm a past president of the IIA in South Africa and a member of ISACA, the ACFE, and the Denver chapter of the IIA. I'm also the author of the Auditor's Guide to IT Auditing, Corporate Fraud and Internal Control, a Framework for Production, and the third edition of Internal Auditing, an Integrated Approach, should be out and on Amazon within the next week or so. Okay, that's me, and that's where I'm coming from. Let me pass you back to Jim, and he can take you back through the webinar housekeeping. Jim?
Thanks, Richard. You should have all received the slides this morning, as well as all of the data files for the webinar. I'm not going to go into detail on the housekeeping and disclaimer items. You can read them pretty much for yourself. Just let me quickly say that we are recording today's webinar, and you will be provided with a link to that recording. The link will most likely be sent to you with the follow-up email that goes out tomorrow. NASBA rules do require us to ask polling questions during the webinar, and CP certificates will be sent via email to those who answer all of the polling questions. If you're joining us from a tablet device today, you may not be able to respond to the polling questions, in which case you'll just have to accumulate your answers and send them to us in a single email, and then we'll record them so that you get the CPE. You can submit questions via the chat box on your screen. We'll answer them during or at the conclusion of the webinar. I'll be moderating the questions and passing them along to Richard. After the webinar is over, you will get an evaluation survey that comes, and please answer those questions that come in that follow-up to help us continuously improve our webinars. The next screen provides the information about the disclaimer, and again, I'm not going to read that. The disclaimer just basically says that the views, the positions, and opinions of Audit Net or the presenters' respective organizations and may not reflect Audit Net's opinions. Let me also mention very quickly that Audit Net has entered into an agreement to provide access to subscriber content to IDEA Premium supported users. If you're currently a Premium supported IDEA user, you can access the Audit Net content at no cost. For more information, just go to the Audit Net site for details on how to log in and access more than 2,300 templates. At this point, I'd like to turn the floor back to Richard so he can share with you how to get the most from IDEA software. Richard?
Thanks, Jim. Today's webinar will be slightly shorter than the previous ones. The reason for that is that this particular session is a shorter session, and I don't want to start the next session because that's a big one on its own. And I would end up splitting halfway through it. So what are we going to do today? We're going to take a look at designing a report and using something called the Report Assistant. We'll have a look at setting up headings. We'll have a look at defining the break steps, where you would want reports to break, what subtotals you would look. to keep it relevant, defining the breaks, reporting breaks, grand total steps, setting up the headers and footers, and then previewing and printing a report. IDEA is a very user-friendly system, and it's very easy simply to take the data that's on the screen and say, print what's on the screen. But it doesn't look particularly good when you do that. So we're going to take a look at designing a report. In a typical file, you're going to end up with a plethora of data items, many of which will not be relevant to the person who is going to receive this particular part of the report. So we can select which pieces of data we would like to see displayed and printed, and then we can format that data specifically as we wish it to be displayed. You may, for example, have received a date in a European format, day, month, and 4 years. Now, if you're producing this as a report to an American audience, you would like to see that coming out on the report differently to the way the data is actually structured. And by the same token, if you have an American database and you're producing a report which has got to go to auditees in Europe, then you may have to reverse the dates and move from month, day to day, month. Just as an example. So, within IDEA, there are certain things that we can change and certain things that we can't. So things we can change include the fields that we're looking at, the visible fields, and the order that those fields are in fact displayed in. We can change the font for each field or column, including the size of the font. Just be careful, I'll show you when it comes to it, but you can, for example, decide, I want to have the totals in 14 pitch. The rest of it will be in 10 pitch, but the totals will be in 14 pitch. And if you're not careful, you can put the whole thing out of alignment. Okay, so be careful when you start varying things. Make sure that you're keeping them consistently and that the report looks the way you intended. There's an old advert about auditing. You can do the best audit in the world, and if people ignore your report, then the whole thing's been a waste of time and money. A lot of auditors will tell you that the end product of the audit is the audit report. In fact, it's not. Our job as auditors is to assist management make things better. And if things get better because of the audit, then it was a good audit. You can do the most technically brilliant audit in the world. You can extract information from the computer until it's coming out of your ears. And if nobody reads it or nobody understands it, then that's been a bad audit. So we need to set up our reports for maximum impact. We can align the data within the column. The fact that this is numeric and numeric is normally right aligned doesn't mean to say that you necessarily want it that way on the printout. The fact that the data is alpha and left aligned doesn't mean to say that you don't want it, for example, your headings centered in the column. So we can change our alignment. We can change our numeric formatting, including the currency symbol, the thousand separator, and the negative format. Whether you want it with a minus in front of it or in red or in brackets is entirely up to you. You're designing this report for impact on the people who are going to read it. If I'm doing a report for South Africa, the currency symbol will be an R for rands. If it's for the States, it will be a dollar. If it's for somewhere in Europe, it's going to have to be the euro symbol. So I'm going to have to fit those in. As I said, I can change the date format. I can change simply the column widths, or I can change the text or the color of the background. So I can have black within a gray background, or I can have red text or blue text or anything I choose. Other things we can change the report headings and footers. Again, together with the fonts for that header and the alignment of that header. We can change the sequence of the records. I may have received the data in alphabetic order of customer. I want it alphabetic for customer within country, within region. I can set it up any way I want. So I can change the sequence of the records. I can also change such elements as our field headings. I can change subtotals, totals, and the numeric formatting. You can optionally include the record numbers. Now that's not commonly done on a report that you're going to give the auditee, but it may well be done on a report that's going to become part of your working papers. So that if there is an abnormality, you can go exactly to that record. We can change the column widths, print margins, and page orientation. Okay, so enough of my talking. Let's get on and take a look at actually doing it. So again, I'm going to jump over into IDEA. And I'm sitting in my raw IDEA. For you, you would normally go through the normal procedure of starting it up from programs, select your working folder, or select the particular project that you wish to be in. Brand new one, you may have to start a new project. You can either create it, select it, or look at its properties. We're already in the project that I set up for the use with this particular course, this particular series of webinars. So I'm now going to bring in my file. For those of you who've been with us for a while, you'll recognize the file that we're going to bring in. For those of you who are new, bear with us and you'll see how we bring files in. We've already covered that on a previous webinar, but just to give you a flavor for it, we're going to bring in a text file. The file that we're going to bring in is our sales file, and I know that some of you will be saying, no, not again. Okay, so I'll pick it up from my tutorial. Down here we have sales. You'll see that you have a sales layout. For those of you who've already been on these courses, here's a sneaky way of doing it. You've already set up the sales file. Now you may have set it up last month. You're now importing this month's sales file, but the definition is still the same. So underneath it you'll see optional definition file, and if I click underneath, there's a sales record definition file. If I double click on that one and say next, it's already brought it all in with the names I set up, with the types I've set up, the data types, with the amounts, etc. Number of decimal places. So all I would have to do is say next. So you don't have to go through all of this definition every time. I'm going to take it out for those who have joined us for the first time today. I'll take out all of that definition file. I'll leave in my sales.txt. If you didn't see how we got that, I went in to IDEA Projects tutorial, and in there was my sales.txt. I'll say next. IDEA's had a look at the file. It says, it looks to me like it's fixed length. In this case it's right, so we'll say yes, next. It says, I think it's 42 characters long. Yep, we know it is, so that's happy. It says, I think that these are where all your fields are. This is where we've got a problem. It's tried to work it out, and it says there is a gap. That number is the same all the way. That number is the same all the way. That's probably two different fields. In fact, it's wrong. Now if I take my cursor across that line, you can see as it crosses it, it becomes a bold line. If I double click on that bold line, it takes it out. If I've accidentally taken out the wrong one, a single click will put it back. But in this case, I can look at my record layout and I can say, I know I don't want that one, take it out. My next field starts at the 2. Now that's a date. So there's my 2006-07-21. I need to take that line after the 2 out. Oh dear, I took out the one in front of the 2. I'll put it back. I'll take out the one after the 2. Single click puts it back, double click takes it away. There's my date. There's my payment type. There's my salesman. But my salesman is only 3 characters long, and that's showing it as a big long field. I need to put an extra line in there. So there's my salesman. My next field is my customer number, and I know that that's 5 digits, so there it is there. And then I've got an 05, which is my product code, and then my amount. So I'm happy with the layout. Now I've got to tell it what each of these fields are. So I'll say next. The first one, it says I think it's numerical. The numeric fields it calls number 1. The next one is character, so it says it's character 2, then the next one's character 3. We don't want number 1, we want it to be our invoice number. It is numeric. It doesn't have any decimal places, so I'm happy with that. I'll go on to the next one. It says it's character. Well, this is my transaction date. How do I know? Because I got the file layout from IT. Assuming you've got the right file layout. It says it's character, but we know it's not, it's a date. So if I look on the right hand side, I can click on the little arrow, and here are all the possible signs that I could make it, possible field types. I'm going to make it a date, and when it's a date, you'll see underneath it, it says converted example, unable to convert data. The reason for that is I've not told it what the date looks like. So we know it's year, month, day. My next field is my payment type. And we know that that is character because it says so in our layout. And that's what it will look like when it comes out, so I'm happy with that. I'll move on to my next one. If you accidentally go into next, I haven't defined them all. I can always go back. Okay. So I'm back here. There's my number 4. My number 4, I know, happens to be my salesman. It is numeric. There are 3 decimal places. My next one is my customer. My next 2 digits are my product code. And you'll see in the converted example it's showing it as a 5. Now it's not 5, it's 05. Reason for that is it's analyzed it and it thinks it's looking at decimal. We know it's not because the file layout says it's character. So I will make it character. And now it's 05. And the last field is going to be my amount. And now I can say next. I could add more fields here if I wanted to add virtual fields, or I could simply go and say next. Okay. As I say, that's how I would do it when I was setting it up the first time. Do I want to enter an equation to limit the data that's imported? Yes or no? No, I don't, so I'll say next. I'm going to import the file, and the file is going to be called my sales file, so I'll call it sales transactions. I'm going to save it within that project. I've got some choices. Do I wish to generate a record number on each file, on each field? I'll try that again. A record number field on each transaction. Nope, don't particularly want to do that. Do I want to generate field statistics? Generally, I don't. If I need them, I'll create them as I go. Some people like to do it always, some people don't. I'm going to say no and just finish. That already exists. My record definition file already exists. Will I replace it? Yes. And there's my file. Okay, so we've got all of that lot. We've brought all of our data in. Now we can start looking at changing things around. That's fine for bringing the data in, but it's not how I want it to appear on a printout. So I want to change the order of the fields to customer number, then transaction date, then payment type, then amount. So there's my customer number. Now if I try and click and hold it and move it, all it does is highlight multiple fields. So I don't want to do that. I want to click on it once. When I say click on it once, I mean click on the heading once. It's now highlighted my customer number. Now if I click on it again, I've got a little box, it's a move box, and I can move it anywhere I choose. I'm going to move it right over to the left-hand side, and you can see there's a little red line that shows you where you're about to drop this in. So I've dropped that in there. Now, you can do this with things like Excel. If you do it with Excel and you save it, you've changed the data. Okay? The data is now in that order. We don't want to change the data. What we are changing is the record definition that says this data from the file looks like this on the screen. Okay. So there's my customer number. I'm going to take my transaction date. There's my transaction date. I'll highlight it again and then I'll move it. I want my payment type. I'll take that across. And then I want the amount. And I'll take that across. Okay, so I'm now sitting with my customer number, my transaction date, the payment type, and the amount. Then I have the invoice number, salesman, product code, etc. Now, let's say for argument's sake, I don't particularly want to show the invoice number. I can click on that to highlight it. I can right-click on the heading and say hide the field. Okay. I can do the same with the salesman. Hide the field. I can't do it just now because I haven't highlighted the column. Once I've highlighted the column, then I can say hide the field. I can highlight my product code, right-click and hide the field. Now if I was to print that, that's all it's going to print. I haven't changed the data. I've deleted it from the view, but I haven't deleted the data. And if I wanted to get it all back, all I have to do is go back in and say show all fields, and they're all back. Okay, so the raw data is still sitting there. Okay, let's take a look at changing some of those column headings. I'm going to take the customer number. So I'm not going to highlight that because if I do something now, it's not going to do it to the heading. So I'll simply go in over the customer number and right-click over that. And you'll see I've got column settings. If I click on column settings, there's my title, transaction date. Okay. I can put a filter on various fields within there. I can say I want it left aligned, I want it centered, I want it right aligned. I'm going to center this thing. I want the, oh no, I won't. I'll leave it where it is. I want the font. I'll go down to font and say I want this to be bold. Okay. I could say I want it to be higher, a bigger number. I'm going to change the color to a blue. And I want my background color to be a light gray. And if I say OK, then there I am sitting. Now you'll notice when I move things around, my amount, I'm getting a lot of hash signs in because the field is not big enough. If I stretch it, it's there. I did it with my transaction date. Why? Because that's the one that was highlighted. If I went in and said go into column headings, when I've highlighted the customer number, you'll see down here I'm on customer number. I don't have to be. I could go to invoice number and change that. I'll go back to my transaction date. I'll set it back to black. I'll set the background color back to off. And I'll leave the font. I'll leave the font as bold. And I've now changed all of that in the field for the column settings. I've not done anything to the headings yet. We'll come to the headings. Okay, so you'll see there in your handout, we want to set up the customer number one way, we want to set up the transaction date another way, the payment type another way, and the amount another way. So have a go at that for yourselves. Remember, if I want to set up the customer number in a particular way, I'll highlight the field, right-click, and go to my column settings. And what I did was take it from right aligned to say left aligned. I'm going to make my font a bold font. I could change the font size. I don't particularly want to. I'm going to change the color to blue. I'm going to change the background color to light gray. Done. Okay, on my transaction date, I'm going to look at my column settings now. I've already set this one up as bold. I'm going to take that back down and make it regular. I want it left aligned. I've got my transaction date, but I want to change the date format. At the moment it's set for America because that's the region I'm operating in. But I could go and say, no, I don't want that. I want it to look like year, 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 month, month, day, day. I want it to look like day, month, and year. I want it to look like 3rd of December. So I'll take that one. Nah, don't like that. I'll put it back the way it was. I'll go back to my column settings. And I'm going to change the date format to month, month, day, day, and 4 years, which is my regional setting. Month, month, day, day, 4 years, with a slash in between. My payment type, I'll change that. Column settings, I'll put it centered, and I'll leave it at that. On the amount, column settings, I want it to align right. I want to use a currency symbol, and I'll stick with the default one that's set up, which is my dollars. I'm going to use a 1000 separator. Negative format. I would like it to come out in red in brackets. if it's a negative amount. Okay, so when I'm happy with that, I can say OK. There it's all sitting with my dollar. I've got my commas in. I don't have any negatives in this, or do I? Let me find out. There's all my data. Now this has only got 900 records, it says at the bottom. This could have 900,000. Are there any negatives? Well, the quick way to find out, I'll go and look at my field statistics. And if I click on my field statistics on the right hand side, it says you don't have any. Do you want to create them? Yes. Okay. Not interested in invoice, not interested in salesman, not interested in customer. I'm only interested in the amount. Ah, I do have negative values. So if I click on that, I can see those two have negative values. And if I want to see which ones they are, I can go back into my sales data. I can look in here and I can see it's invoice number 100845 and go back into my data and then just move down, and I should find somewhere down here that we have some negatives in red. If I can't be bothered waiting for them, I could go and look specifically for them, or I can go into my field statistics. There they are, and these are the ones I'm looking for. Okay, if you want to see them on the database, then the easiest way to do it is to go in on my analysis and do an extraction or a summarization or a stratification, or any of them really. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a key value, and the field I'm going to look for is my amount. I did that too quickly, I apologize. I'm sitting on key value extraction. I'm going to pick up all of the fields, but I only want them where the amount is less than 0. So I need to set up something in that criterion. I do that with my equation editor, which is a little one that looks like a calculator. I'm into my equation editor, and I'm looking for the amount. So I'll double click on amount down at the bottom, less than or equal to, well, I don't really want less than, well, I'll take less than and equal to 0. I can check the quality of the equation. It's a valid equation, and I'll say OK. Now I'm going to output to a key val database. Not that I particularly use it, need it, but I could output it there, and I want it indexed on my amount. And there's the two negative ones. Do I want to create a separate database for each unique key? I'll say no. Do I want to create a virtual database? I can't change that. So here I'm sitting with it. Now you'll notice that that is not in red. Reason it's not in red is because I changed it here. Column settings, and I said negatives will be in red. I did not change it here. If I did it there and said column settings, set my negatives into red, these are the two reds. Okay, So the ones that are negative in here will be red. There's one there. That was one of the ones we were looking for. 1000845 is in red. So you can set it to look anywhere you want. Okay. Happy. Because what we're going to do now is go into the first of the polling questions. And the first of the polling questions says that fields may be hidden by right-clicking on the field and choosing Hide Field, left-clicking on the field and choosing Hide Field, right-clicking on the field heading and choose Hide Field, left-clicking on the field heading and choose Hide Field. Once again, you don't necessarily have to get it right, but you do have to vote. And we've done this, so hopefully you'll remember how we did it. Okay, we have 75% voted. As I say, to get your CPD, you need to vote. We have 100%. So I will close the poll. And I'll share the results. And you can see we've got a split between right-clicking on the field and choosing Hide Field. Now let me try it. If I go into a field, let's say that visa, and right-click on it, I can append, I can modify, I can do all kinds of things. I can't hide the field. To hide the field, I've got to go into the heading. Okay, so I can right-click. If I try to left-click on the heading, I'm simply going to highlight the whole column. If I right-click on the heading, I can say Hide the Field. And again, if I right-click in the data or click in the data, I can't do anything. If I right-click on the heading, I can say Show All the Fields. And it will put it back where it was. Not where it was in the data, but where it was on the field. So let me hide that and demonstrate it. There we are with our whole file. If I right-click in one of the fields, let's say that 730, I can append, I can modify, I can remove the field. If I try removing the field, it says it's not virtual, you can't delete it. So what I want to do is not remove the field, I want to remove it from the view. And to do that, I go to the heading. If I right-click, it will simply highlight it. If I want the salesman if I left-click, it will only highlight it. If I right-click, I can then say Hide the Field. And it's hidden, not the salesman, I can say Show All the Fields, and they all come back where they were. But when they come back, that amount is too small to fit, so I'm going to have to stretch it. Okay. So let's take a look at setting this whole thing up. We've got this on here. I'm going to take my invoice number, my salesman, and my product code, because I don't really want them. So what I'll do is I'll highlight all three of those, right-click, and say Hide the Fields. Boom, gone. Now I want to set up my page the way I want it to appear. So I'm going to go into my file, and you'll see we've got in here print. If I click on print, I can print preview, I can create the report, I can do a page setup. So if I go in on my page setup, It's sitting in portrait mode. Maybe that's what I want, maybe it's not. I'll change it to landscape. It's as you feel appropriate for this size of what's going to be on the screen. I can set my margins, left, right, top, bottom, etc. And I can say OK. Now I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to go back into my print. And this time I'm going to say create the report. Okay. So, what kind of report would I like to build? Horizontal or vertical? Well, I've said horizontal. I can change my mind. Do I want to use an existing report or create a new one? I'll create a new one. Do I wish to allow the headings to span multiple tables? Yes. Do I want to show record numbers? Not particularly. Include the database name? Yep. It's always useful to know which file you produced this from, because in a couple of months someone might query this report and you're looking at it and you say, well, I actually had that file and I sorted it, then which one did that come from? I can now say finish. Do I wish to preview the report I've just created? Yes. And that's what it's going to look like. I can zoom in. There's the date, customer number, transaction date, payment type, amount. The database came from that particular database file. It was done on that particular time of day on that particular date. But it's not terribly exciting. So I could print it. I've got 2 pages. There's my 2 pages. Don't particularly want that. I'll close it. I don't particularly like that layout. So I'll go back in to my print and I'll go back in to create my report. This time I'm going to say I want it vertical or horizontal. If I make it vertical, what would it look like? It'll look like that. There's record number 1 with the transaction date, etc., etc. So I've not put it into a portrait layout. All I've done is I've changed what it looks like, what the text will look like on this report. I'll close the report again. If I want it in a portrait layout, I'm going to have to go back in on my print and say page setup, go back to portrait. Okay. Okay, so what do I want to do now? Well, it's nice the way it stands, but I don't particularly like that customer number. So I could change it. I can go into the field and go into the column settings, and I've got all of this light. That's what it will look like on the printer, but I still can't change cust no, and that's not going to be terribly impressive when it comes out. I want customer number to be customer number, transaction date to be transaction date. Now how am I going to do that? Let me let you have a think on that. How are you going to get that customer number into customer number? If I try it from here and I try and print, I've got some problems. I can't do anything with it. From within Create Report, I can go back to my horizontal. I can allow my headings. I can do lots of nice things. Remember I said finish? Instead of saying finish, I'm going to go into next. There's my invoice number. My invoice number is not coming out, so I don't need to worry about that. First one that's coming out is customer number. So if I click on that, I can change the text that will print. customer number. And within that, I can say I want it left aligned, right aligned, I want it justified. Now the data is going to come out left aligned. Why would I want the heading to be right aligned? So I'll align it in line with the text. Fine. Now let's look at my transaction date. My transaction date, I don't particularly want to use transaction date. I could call it invoice date or transaction date or whatever I want. Again, it's left aligned, so I'm quite happy to leave it there. I can look at my payment type, and I don't particularly want pay type. I'll put it as payment type. Now this data is centered, so I'll center that heading as well. And I can go in on my final one, which is my amount. I'm happy with amount, but I'd rather have it with a capital A. It's going to look a bit prettier. We're okay so far. Now I could at this stage go in on my fonts, change them, make them bold, do whatever I want. So let me do that. Let me go and make them bold. And I'll go into next. Now I can decide where do I want to have control breaks. Okay. I can select my orders and I can tell it how I want it. At the moment I'm happy with what I've got, so I'll simply say finish and preview. And all of a sudden, now if I zoom in, there's my heading, the date, the time, customer number, invoice date, payment type, amount. Payment type is centered, so is amount. Invoice date, left aligned, customer number, left aligned. I could print that out quite happily. Okay. But still not quite good enough. So I'll close that and I'll go back in and I'll go back in on my print and I'll go back in and creating the report. Now you'll notice I'm leaving use existing report because it's going to pick it up as I set it up. My customer number is called customer number. My salesman is called salesman because I'm not using it. My amount is called amount. So I can be quite happy with that. Now I can go into next. Now I want to set the control breaks. So what do I want to set it on? Do I wish to send it on amount ascending? Nope. I want to set it on, first of all, my customer number, ascending. Then I want it by date. And I don't want it ascending, I want it descending. When I'm happy with that lot, that's the order it's going to come out. It's going to come out by customer number. I could have it by customer name if I had the name, but I want it by number and by date. Customer number ascending, then date descending. Next. Okay. Now it's asking me where I want totals, where I want breaks in this printout. Well, I want to create a break and total up the amount field for each customer. So I'm going to create a break on the customer and I'm going to show within the customer the break on the field customer number and total up the field amount. I don't particularly want to count the records in the break, or do I? Maybe I do. There's my customer number. The fields to total are not showing up at all. And the reason they're not showing up is I've not told it break on this field. So if you get the situation where you say, I want it by transaction date, what the hell's wrong with this thing? It's not showing up. Take a look. I want it in customer number. I want to break on this field. Okay. The text will be black automatically. The background will be white automatically because I've not changed it. Do I want to count the records in the break? Yes or no? Okay, I'm happy. I want to show the amount. I want to use the currency symbol. I could change the font. I'll go into my next, and it says the grand total. What do I want a grand total of? Well, I want the grand total of the amount. And again, I still want to use the currency symbol. It's picked up that as being the default based on the fact that I said I wanted to use it here. If I took it off there and I went on to the next, it's still showing up because I originally set it there. So I'm happy. Now, one thing I didn't do was tell it what the title of this is. So what is this report? Well, this is my sales transactions report. I could put any comments in there, such as in order of date within customer, or anything I want to put in there. Prepared by internal audit, yourself, whatever your name is. You could put in the header there. Usually I put in the company name, and then I can put in the date that I want it, upper, footer if I wish a footer. Now I can put that and that will print it out on the pages, or I can say print me a cover page as well. Finish. Now I can have a look. Can I make a report layout change without going back through all the steps? Yes. Okay. And let me just show it what it looks like, and then we'll go back and do that again. There's my sales transactions, my internal audit, and order of date within customer. Next page. And there it is there. For that customer, there's one record, one record, one record, one record. Next page. There's a customer with more than one record. So there's a customer number. Here are all the different records. And there's a total amount. And if I go down to the last page, and all the way down, we should end up with the grand total as well. Okay, I will close that. The question I was asked was, can you go back without going through it all again? Can you change it? Yes, because if I go back in and say I want to print and create a report, all I have to do is say use the existing report, and it's going to pick up everything that I've already done. Say, well, I don't want to change anything there, I don't want to change anything there, I don't want to change anything there, I don't want to change the grand total. I would have liked to change the text and put that into a different color or whatever. Okay, so I can say there's my amount. I've highlighted it. I want to make it, the grand total will be blue and the background will be gray or whatever. So I don't need to go back and do the whole thing again. I just skip through to the bit I want to change and then change it. Okay. And that brings us to our second polling question. Our second polling question, if I launch it, says that breaks may occur one field in ascending order only, one field in descending order only, one field in either ascending or descending, or many fields in either ascending or descending. Once again, you don't have to get it right, but you do have to try. We've got another 10 seconds for the votes to come in. I'm zooming in at the moment. We've still got a couple to come. And I'll close the poll and share the results. The majority of people have gone for the correct answer, which is many fields in either ascending or descending order. Remember when we went through this, we looked at it and we said we want first by customer in ascending order, then we want it by date in descending order, and so on. And I could have said within date, show me the payment type or show me the amount, put that in order, high value items left first, or whatever. Okay, let me hide that and go back. Okay, I'm going to save this now. And the way I'm going to save it, I'm going to go in and say that I want to save the view. So I'm going to go and I'm going to say I want to save this particular database. And I want to save it as, if I go into views, I want to save this particular view of the active database. Now I'm not changing the data, but I want to call this one sales transaction and report. And if I save that, I've now done that, I'm happy with it. I can now go and I can resurrect that. I can go open it again and bring that one in. So if I close that down, that sales transaction window, and I went back into my full sales transactions, there's my full file. Okay, I'm looking at the raw data, and I said, okay, I want to go into view, I want to open the view, that view. And it's just taken this month's data, next month's data, the following month's data, and it's whacked that view of data straight back in. If I go back into my file, into my print, and go back to my create report, you'll see everything is as it was. So I'm able to take what I did this month, and without having to go through all this rigmarole every time I do it, if I want to repeat this next month, I can bring in the raw data and simply say bring in that view of the data. And then I can go ahead with the thing. So, what else can we change? Well, I don't know. Let's find out. We'll go into our third question. And this polling question says, the date and time of reports are adjustable by the auditor, preset based on when the reports are run, preset based on the date of the file, or adjustable in where they appear on the report. And please vote now. That's a trickier question. Okay, we're almost fully done. And we're fully done. I'll close it and share the results. And the reason I said it's a trickier question, because they are to a certain extent preset on the time that reports are run. Okay, down at the bottom of the screen I can change the date and time, and that's what will come out in the report. Okay, but the correct answer as far as this is concerned is it's adjustable in where they appear on the report. You cannot change the date and time on the report without changing it at the operating system level. You've got to go down there and change the date and time. Okay. If we go back into the IDEA view, okay, down here at the bottom, I can change the date and time, and that's what will appear on the report, but I can't do it from within IDEA. What I can do within IDEA, if you remember, if I go in on my print and I go in to my creating report, next, 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 I can change the position of the date from upper left, don't display it, put it in the bottom, whatever, and the time. I can change the header and footer font, but I can't change the actual date and I can't change the actual time. That's going to come out of the operating system. So to a certain extent, you're stuck with it. Okay, let me close that down. And let's go and bring in a different report or a different file to report on. So I'm going to go back in on my home and then go back into Desktop Plus to import the file. And the file that's going to come in is our access file, and the file is going to be my customer file. So it's going to come from IDEA Projects, and if I look in under Tutorial, there's my customer MDB. So I'll bring that one in. I'll say next. I've only got one database, and I'm going to bring it in, and I'm going to call it customer 1, whatever. Once again, there's my customer database in front of me, and again I'm going to change the order, and you can do this yourself. I'm going to sit back here and let you do it, and I'll give you a couple of minutes, 5 minutes to do it, and then I'll do it with you. Now, one of the options you've got is you can put your hand up. Okay? So, when you've done it, put your hand up. You want to change the layout, change the order of those fields, pick up the status and hide it, and then go and modify the layouts, the country, last name, first name, customer number, credit limit, and save the view as customer credits within your working folder. There had to come a time when I could sit back and relax and you do all the work. And I'll just wait for the hands to go up. If you're having trouble with it, by all means ask a question. I won't necessarily tell you the answer, but you can try. Okay, you should have moved on by now to modifying the layout. So I'll now do the changing of the order. I wanted first of all the country, so I'm highlighting that and moving it. Then I wanted the last name, highlight and move. Then I want the first name. Then I'll have the customer number. Then I want the credit limit. I don't want the status, so I'll just highlight that, right click and hide the field. Okay, so by now you should be modifying layouts. Well done, Jim. I'll give the man a coconut. He got there first. And the others are coming in. Can you see it's actually not that difficult to set it up the way you want it to look? Once you get used to maneuvering within it, it becomes very, very fast. And you stop thinking about how am I going to do this? How am I going to shift this? Where will I put that? Let me just do it. Bang, bang, bang. Okay. I've got most people have managed. Let me just go through it. We wanted to change the customer. So I'll highlight it, right click, and go into my column settings. I'm in country. I want it left aligned, so I'm happy. My font, I want to be bold. My text color, I want blue. And the background color, I'll put into light gray. So I'm happy with that. Then I want my last name. I want that to be aligned left, and I want the font to be regular, which it is. So I'm happy with that one. Next one I want is my first name. And again, I want that left aligned and I want it regular, and that's fine. Then I want my customer number, left aligned, font regular. I can check the font. It is still regular, so that's okay. And finally, I want my credit limit. And this time I want it aligned to the right, which it is. I want the currency symbol. I want the thousandth separator. I want my negative format to be brackets in red. I just happen to like it that way. Some accounting conventions use it with brackets, some use it with a negative, some put it in red. The problem with putting it in red, if you simply say, I'll just put that as a red, and that will highlight it, guaranteed, as soon as you produce this printout, someone's going to photocopy it, and it's going to go back to black and white. So it's always worthwhile making sure that you've either got a minus sign as well as the red, or brackets around it. Okay. When I'm happy, I'll say OK. There's my country. It's been done correctly. My last name hasn't. It's exactly as I wanted it to be. It's where we started from. My credit limit is sitting with dollars, with comma separators, and with my negatives. Okay. I want to save that particular view so that if I bring the file in or bring a new version of the file in, I can see that again. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back And how do I save a view? Well, I go into Views, and I say Save the View. And the view for this one is going to be my customer credit. And there I've saved the view, that particular view of that particular database. Now, if you've been with the course for a while, you'll see there is my customer database still on the left-hand side. I've now got customer1.data. That's because I brought that in yesterday. If I bring up that file, it doesn't look like that. It doesn't look like the first one. But if I open the view and pick up my customer credit, it says it doesn't match. And the reason it doesn't match is I created that particular column, that virtual field. So that layout does not line up with this layout. Okay. And that brings us to our fourth polling question. We're getting through the polling questions quickly today. Okay. Polling question number 4. The appearance of the field may be saved using the view command, the save as command, export database command, close database command. Which? All vote now. And we have 1 or 2 more to vote. Remember, if you want your CPD, you have to answer every question, even if you get it wrong. Give it another 10 seconds. And we'll close the poll and share the results. And most people have gone for A, the view command. And that's correct. Remember, to save this, we had to go into View and then Save the View. Okay. If I went File and tried to do a Save As, there isn't a Save As there. If I go into Home, there isn't a Save As there. I can save it here, but that's going to save the file. It's not going to save the view of the data. Okay. So let's look at setting up our page from this one now. Again, we've done it once, so I'm going to let you have a go on your own. We'll give you 5 minutes to try it. There's your view of the data. We want to set it up as a report. Adjust the orientation and margin as appropriate. Do you think that would fit on a vertical page, or would it have to go horizontal? So go create the report. I'll give you a clue for where we start. We start with File, and we go into Print. Oh, there's Create a Report. If you want to change it, you know how to change it to a horizontal, to a landscape rather than portrait, and you know that you cannot do that in Create a Report. You're going to have to do that in your page setup, and then come back in to create the report. Again, when you're finished, let's get a show of hands. As I said, it's amazing how much difference it can make to the impact of your audit report if you're producing a document that looks professional. Thank the Lord we've gone way away from the days when we used to produce reports on dot matrix printers, 9-pin dot matrix. If you got really upmarket, you went to a 24-pin dot matrix. Now we're producing on quality output devices. Let's produce a report that looks like quality. And remember, with the preview, you can look at it, you can decide, will this have the impact I want, before you actually have to print it. Okay, I shall start with you. I'm going to leave the printer as the page setup as a portrait setup. I'm going to go into that, create a report. What kind of a report would I like to build? I want it horizontal. Within my portrait, well done Jim again. Within my portrait, I want it to come out horizontally. I'm going to create a brand new report. I don't want to show the record numbers. I do want to allow headings to span multiple lines. I will include the database name. Okay. The fields I'm taking in are country, so I would like that to be upper and lower case. It's left aligned, so I'll leave it left aligned. Next one I want is the last name, which is also left aligned, so I'll leave it left aligned. I'm going to change it to surname. First name, I'll put in as, first name. I will leave that left aligned because it's left aligned. Then I want my customer number. My customer number is going to be called customer number, and my credit limit will be called credit limit, and it will be right aligned because my credit limit is right aligned. Okay, everyone's catching up and waving hands frantically in the air. So I'll move to my next field. I want this to come out in ascending country order. Country, it says it's ascending. I want it in last name, ascending order. I could have a first name descending order if I wished, or ascending, or whatever. I'm going to say that I want it to create a break and I want to create a break on the country. So there's my country, break on that field. Count the records in the break, fine. Show the break line, fine. Show the leading break, yeah. I'll take the credit limit, show how much credit is being allocated to each. Next, I want a grand total for all of the credits. I want to show the currency symbol. Oops, I didn't show the currency symbol. I'll go back and show it. And when I'm happy, then I can say finish and preview. And there's my Argentina, all the people, the customer numbers and the credit limit for each of them. So we're extending $110,000 to Argentina of credit, and so on and so forth. Okay. Happy. So we'll go on to our next poll question. Poll question number 5. I have a hand up. I will put the hands down. Question number 5 says, in specifying breaks, it's possible to count the records in the break, show the break line, show the leading break, or all of the above. And you can actually see there country 12 records, country 3 records, etc. So that should give you a slight clue. You almost have everyone voted. Once again, if you want the CPD, you have to vote. Preferably getting it right, but it's not actually compulsory. I do know one guy who came in a webinar and wasn't actually watching the screen, he just said A to everything. Because all it records is the fact that you voted. It does record the fact that you voted correctly or the fact that you voted wrong, but it doesn't count. It just says for your CPE you have to vote. I'm going to close it and share the results. Most people went for all of the above, and you're correct, all of the above. It counts the records in the break, it shows the break line, it shows a leading line above the break, so it does all of the above. So that's fine. Let's go back and take that report now. I'm going to close it. Everything was fine except we didn't set up our headings and our footers. So once again, I'm going to say nothing. I'm going to give you a chance to do it yourself, to go back into that report and set up a cover page, set up the title, the comments, whatever you want. I'll give you 5 minutes and then I'll join you. Okay. I've got to go back into print, got to go back to create report. I'm going to use the existing report rather than go for a new one. Next, 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 next. Aha. So now I want a cover page. and it's going to be credit limits. Whoops, spelled correctly preferably. Credit limits in order of customer within country, prepared by me, or whatever you want. The header is going to be actually we'll change it. I'm going to make it prepared by Jim Kaplan. And the header will be Audit Net. Date and time. If you have a particular preference, you can always change that. The cover page font, I'm going to make it bold. It's already at 26 point. I'll make it 36. When I'm happy, then I'll say finished. Previewed. Bing. Oh, cred. That doesn't look very good. So I'll go back and close that. Go into my report. Cred. Credit. In actual fact, it looked like the font was too big, so I'll go back and I'll drop it back down to 28 pitch. I'm still happy with all of it, so I'll finish. And previewed. And there's credit. And there's my next page as it was. But if I go back to the previous page, it now reads credit by Jim Kaplan in order of customer within country or whatever I want. Okay. To save that report, once again, I can go into my views. I'll close the report first, go into my views, save, and I'm going to call this one credit limits by country. So now I've got credit limits, customer credit, I've got credit limits by country with different outputs in it. And when you're all happy with that, then we'll go on to our final polling question for the day. And that says that report structures can be used saved using the save as command, the view command, the print command, or the close database command. Zoom, everyone's voting. Must be the bit where I said the last vote of the day. %, voted. I will close it and share the results. And as you can see, it was a sneaky one because it was the same as the answer as the previous one. You use the view command. Okay. Okay, happy, I hope, because I can close that. And the next screen says, any questions? stunned silence was the loud reply. Did you pick up any questions, Jim?
No, I have no questions, Richard. I think everything that has been posted has been covered.
Excellent.
Okay.
That means either I've satisfied everyone or they've all gone to sleep.
Remember, if you have any questions, now is the time to submit them. Richard has put up the training schedule. The next session will be importing data from reports. I think that date is wrong, Richard.
In what way?
It says 325.
You lost me. 325?
March 25th.
Oh, sorry, 320. The date is wrong. Yes, I think you're right.
I believe that it's March the 5th. Is that the next one that
It
we
will
have?
be. The next one that we have is... It's actually March the 3rd.
March the 3rd, okay. These look like that they may be the dates from 2014.
I think so.
Okay, we'll have to update those. But the next webinar is on importing data from reports using the IDEA report reader, and that'll be next Tuesday. And we will update those slides to make sure that you have the right dates. If you haven't already registered for the webinar, you can go ahead and you can do that now. We also have some supplemental information, as I mentioned before. There is information about IDEA-supported users having access to all of the Audit Net content. That means all of the templates on Audit Net, which are normally available only to subscribers. We have an agreement with IDEA to provide those templates to premium-supported users of IDEA. So you can find more information about that on the Audit Net site, Introduction to Audit Net. For IDEA users, there is a video that was put together by Automation in Texas that provides you some information. There's also CAT's website from Dave Kader, a data analytics subject matter expert. Also, Audit Net has a number of computer-assisted audit tools and techniques. We also have links to the data analytics software, as well as Audit Net documents by request. The other thing, if any of you are taking the class on scripting, I've found some great resources on scripting for IDEA that we'll be sharing during those webinars. And Richard will be providing you with a way to really automate your process, so that if you're doing repetitive testing for continuous auditing or anything along those lines, Richard is going to show you how to develop scripts to address that. So,
correct.
If you have any other comments, Richard, I think that the next slide provides our contact information.
Yep.
If you have any additional questions that you didn't cover during the webinar today, please feel free to contact either Richard or myself. If it's a general question in regards to the webinars, you can contact me. If it's an IDEA-related question, we would prefer that you contact Richard directly, as he is the subject matter expert on this. Richard?
And that's not just for today's webinar, that's for all of the webinars that we've done up to now, and then for the ones that we're going to be doing in the future.
Exactly. And those of you that have questions about the CPE for this week's webinar, we will be sending out the CPE certificates tomorrow. So you will get the links to the CPE certificates, as well as tomorrow you should get the link to the recording for today. And you should have already received the link for the recording from Tuesday. So at this point, we're finishing up a little early, but I'm sure that you can appreciate that. If you haven't had lunch yet, now's a good time to get your lunch. Richard, if you haven't had dinner yet, now's a good time to get your dinner. So
very good.
I'll say goodbye for the day, and wish you all a good weekend, and hope to see you back again next Tuesday. Bye for now.
Bye. I'm off at 7:30 my time, so I'm off to have my dinner.
Okay, Richard, take care.
Cheers.